Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Today is a very special episode. It's a very significant episode. I don't know that I've fully emotionally grasped the significance of today's episode. And in true Christina fashion, I have no plan for this episode, despite it being very significant. And if you're wondering why it's significant, are you ready for this? This is actually going to be the very last episode of this podcast. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? And if you're like, what? What is she talking about? I'm going to explain through this whole episode. I am getting close to officially 10 years. Not quite there yet, of podcasting. Podcasting has been a huge part of my life. I have grown so much through this. I have met some of the most incredible people in the world through this. This podcast has been one of, probably the longest significant relationship in my life. And has been with me through so many transitions. And, here we are again in a massive transition, which is really what I want to talk to you about in this episode. So, like any long-term relationship that's going to, be a part of your life, when we change, the container has to change too. So, this will be the very last podcast of this specific podcast as it is. However, that just means that as I rebirth the podcast into a new podcast, it's just going to get even better. So I'm not stopping podcasting. I will be continuing podcasting, but we are going to go through a death and rebirth with this show specifically. So I've been kind of going through stuff as we all have. And I'm going to kind of work backwards here. I'm going to be taking a couple weeks off. Not really off, but energetically off from the containers I've set up to really recalibrate. And my team is working very hard. Shout out to them. To get us prepared for our relaunch, really, is what it is. A new vibration, new containers, and that includes this podcast. So we're changing the name, we're changing the energy, we're changing a lot of things about the style, and everything just feels bigger and better and bolder, and I'm really excited about it. So I hope you're excited about it too. And that's just kind of the process that we're going to be going through, and I'll kind of share more about that as well behind the scenes. So, I won't be podcasting for a few weeks. I'm going to be gone off social. My team will probably they will post announcements on my social for me related to some things that I'll share about here next. And I'm going to, go through a death and honor the death of this and let myself fully rebirth and then re-enter the space anew, fresh and new. So I'm really excited about it. It feels so right. And I do want to talk about kind of what led there and, all the reasons why we're doing that. I'm really excited. I feel great, honestly. So only good things. But I think I'm still kind of, I was thinking about this episode. I'm like, wow, this is going to be the last episode of the Christina the Channel podcast. And then it's going to change into a different podcast, an even better podcast. And that's the beauty of any long-term relationship is you get to go through a death and rebirth together and start a completely fresh container with the same entity, so to speak. So I'm excited about it. I hope you guys are too. And I'm doing this all totally backwards of probably what anybody would tell me to do, but that's just how I'm doing it. As I am gone for the next few weeks, I want to tell you some things that we are rolling out. And I just kind of want to start the episode here because not everybody listens to the whole episode. So just some PSAs that this is what's going on. It's going to be great. I'm going to, peace out for a sec. And we're going to be doing our stuff behind the scenes and can't wait to re-enter. So there's a couple of exciting things that are going along with that. This will be happening while I am gone. So that's why I'm telling you ahead of time. One of those things, which I'll probably get more into later, is we are doing a cleaning up of the house. And I'm doing that everywhere in the business. Obviously, I've been doing that in my life. I've been talking about that a lot. And we're like really doing that big time with the business. And, I think when you're cleaning house, you kind of always still find some other things after you feel like you do the main cleaning of the house. But I'm going to do a large bulk of that as we really shift into this new frequency. And the thing that I know to be true from all the death and rebirth cycles I've been in my life, and I have that channel of cycles in human design. So it's like I really got to close old cycles to fully re-enter new ones. But whether or not you have that cycle energetically, from what I see psychically and in energy healing, working with clients, it's like for us to really launch into a new phase, we really do have to kind of close a lot of these energy loops that are not congruent with where we're going. And it doesn't always make sense to the logical mind. So anyway, one of the things that we will be doing is, one, removing most of my courses and masterclasses from the website. So if you have been interested in any of those courses, I would recommend paying attention. And they'll be up for about a week, and my team will be posting on social media and sending out emails to let you know. I think this is all supposed to be a surprise, but whatever. I'm not making it a surprise for you. I just want to let people know, just in case you've been wanting to sign up for one of those. So we are going to be removing those courses from the website, and it's just part of the cleaning house thing, and I love all of those courses, and it's amazing information. And as we've kind of really gotten into the frequency of the new rebrand, I just want less on my site, honestly. I just want less on my site. And those of you who are in my containers with me know I'm like kind of reworking a lot of things already. I'm excited to do more with Expanding a High this year. And yeah, I'm just excited to kind of add more into what I'm doing from this new frequency. So anyway, we are going to be cleaning house there, and my team will be posting about it and sending out emails. So if you're on the list, you'll get notified about that in case you've been wanting to go through Abundance Accelerator, or any of the manifestation courses that I offer, the Energy Protection Masterclass, all of those. Honestly, I think I'm biased, but everything I put out, I give 175% to, probably more than that. And it's really good stuff. So, if anything calls to you, now is the time to hop in on that before kind of the end of next week. And you'll get emails about that. So that's one thing. We're cleaning up house, just simplifying, and that's really been the thing I'm trying to lean into. And that's not an easy thing for me. I'm just not like that. I'm not a minimalist. And so I'm trying to just really lean into that and noticing that I'm, the resistance underneath why I'm like that. So that's one. And two, the big announcement. And, I wish this was all kind of perfectly mapped out. When you listen to this, there may or may not be a link in the show notes and description. Sorry, but if you check back, it'll be added when we have it up. And the team will post to social media, and we'll be sending out emails. But we're hosting a really exciting event in March towards the end of March in San Diego. It's going to be a 2-day in-person live event. There will be live channeling with the Oracle. It's going to be so epic. And then there will be a day of in-person energy healing and Q&A with me. And it's just going to be pure freaking magic. And I am so excited. Like, I'm so excited. The whole team, we're so excited. It's just going to be magical. So some of you in the membership already know about that. I mentioned it. We've just been just finalizing all the details with all of the things that go involved with that before we officially, open up tickets. So recommend getting in on that. There will be an early bird kind of special if you jump in on that, but it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be an amazing opportunity to just be in person together and like feel that frequency. There will be so many miracles and so much magic that happens that weekend. And it's going to be such a great opportunity to really just connect with Soul Fam and meet people and see people in real life. And I mean, I love the membership calls. They're my favorite part of the week. I always tell Andrew after I get off a call, I come down and I just am like spinning in a circle with joy. And I'm like, I literally just want to channel like that every day. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. And so I'm just so excited to do it in person. And I just think it's going to be even next level magic. So depending on when you listen to this, there might be a link to learn more about the event and buy your ticket. If you're interested in that, I would love to see you there. If not, just pay attention on social media. We'll for sure be sending out emails, and I'm just beyond excited. So it's going to be so much fun. Is there anything else I want to say about that? I don't think so. I don't really have words to articulate how pumped I am. I mean, this is really like what I want to be moving into more, is just a lot more in-person experiences in every way. And that's where also a lot of the changes will come with podcast. I'm just wanting to be in person more, and facilitate more in-person experiences for the community, of, a variety of different kind of sizes. And I think that will be super fun. And I think a lot of us just need that. Well, I know I need that. I love that. I need that the most. Like, we really need community. And I know a lot of you are feeling that too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I really hope to see you there. And those are kind of like the two big notes I wanted to let you know about before I kind of peace out for a little bit. There also is not going to be a Feb energy update for the podcast, but I will post one to YouTube in the next few days or so. So I'm going to be a few days late, but it is what it is. I mean, Feb is going to be huge. I had recorded the Feb energy updates for the membership, where I go through every zodiac, and they were like really juicy readings. I mean, if you watched it, my face. I was like, wow, February's big. It's getting wild out here. It's very interesting. So definitely check out that if you haven't yet watched your energy update in the membership. You can go to christinathechannel.com/membership if you're not already a member. We have a 7-day free trial if you want to check it out. But yeah, Feb's going to be big. So I'll put that on YouTube in a few days. What I have been up to, which, if you follow me on social media, no surprise, I have been editing this book. And this next book I channeled 2 years ago. And it was very intense for me to channel. It's part 2 of Manifestation Mastery. So it's the next book from the Monarch Being. It kind of builds on Manifestation Mastery. It's all about love and relationships and different types of soul connections, and talk about soulmates and karmic soulmates and twin flames and divine love and family dynamics and just like really new earth relationship templates. And it's very meaty. It's about twice the size of Manifestation Mastery. But I channeled this a very long time ago, and it was very like, it brought up a lot for me, I think for a lot of us, maybe, and I know not for everybody, but relationships are kind of the stickier point. And I think especially now on the planet, a lot of people are coming up against this relationship bit, romantically, friendship wise. Like, I think a lot of these dynamics are kind of hitting their head. So I had channeled that, and I kind of sat on it, and I had the intention of editing it earlier, but every time I tried, it wasn't really working out. I couldn't really get into it. I felt like, I don't know. And then I was getting upset with myself because, it had been a year, and then it had been almost 2 years, and I was like, I've got to get this out, and whatever. Finally, it was time, and I really, really wanted it to get released in Feb. Like that was my goal. And I had set the intention at the beginning of January to edit it, and January just flew by for me. I feel like, to me, January felt like it lasted so long. Personally, I just felt like I was doing so many things, and every day just kind of almost just in response to what was going on. And I didn't end up having that space to like really do the deep work. It's a lot of deep work, and I'm like fully in that vortex, and it was just a lot. It's been a lot slower for me to edit because I'm like reading it for what feels like the first time, and I'm trying to integrate everything they're saying, and I'm also, sorting through all the, dividing up paragraphs and fixing all the spelling errors. When I'm channeling, I'm like in the trance and I'm typing super fast, and so I know what the sentences say. Sometimes they're so jumbled, I have to like figure out, kind of rechannel what they say or ask the guides. But there's a ton of spelling errors because my fingers just kind of flying across the keys. So that's why it ends up taking me a long time, because I have to change the spelling of most words because I'm going so fast. So anyway, it's really long, and I've been trying to digest it and edit it, and it's just taking me a lot longer than I had planned, and my ego was getting really upset about it because I wanted the book out by a certain date. And there have also been a lot of other kind of just very real logistic things that I've been getting kind of pulled into, trying to handle that. I just didn't have enough time in a day. And I was tired and all that. So, I ended up, it was taking me too long, and I went past the date where the production team could get it out on the date I wanted. And then I got kind of frustrated. Well, I got very frustrated. And now, it always works out how it's supposed to, but doesn't mean your ego doesn't like it, so just being honest, that's how I feel too. I still go through that because I care so much about this. Like, there's so many things in my life that I'm so just like neutral about, and it's fine and whatever. Honestly, most things. And there are certain things like my books I'm just like so intense about and protective about. Because I just want to do everything justice, and I take the responsibility I have for bringing like these things that I'm channeling through like a high, or like these books. Like, I take it very seriously. I mean, it's fun and magical and amazing at the same time, but it's, I don't take that for granted. I don't take that lightly. I feel very honored and grateful that this gets to move through me, and I get to share this with the world. And, I just want to do it justice. So anyway, we're kind of like, I'm doing this whole book launch, which is a big, energetic focus, and really, should be the only thing we're focusing on. But it just sort of overlapped with a lot of other changes. And the last couple of years have been very fast for me and very weird. And I don't know how many of you also felt this energy, but I know a lot of you like know that all this was going on. Last year I was just on the move so much. I feel like I was on the move so much. I didn't get a chance to stop and breathe. And I think that was kind of by design. And really, I was thinking a lot about how the last couple of years, things have there's been like something that's felt kind of off, like not quite clicked into place. And I didn't know what it was. And it was really bothering me. And I was also thinking about when I wrote this book, when I channeled this book, it was such a big initiation for me. As I've been editing it, I've been tapping back into the emotions I felt during that process, and everything it kind of made me reflect on, and how it made me reevaluate my relationships and myself. And there was just so much it brought up in me that even had nothing to do with the book, but it was a very big personal initiation and activation. I just remember after channeling it, I felt like I was halfway through this birth where I was like, I just kind of got initiated into a different frequency of what I'm here to share on the planet. And I was kind of digesting that, but didn't really know exactly what it looked like. And I halfway birthed it, and it hasn't been it's not fully birthed until it's out and published. And as I'm editing it, it's like, whoa, I'm almost like it was like I partially turned the corner, and then this is like a full turning the corner. And I'm like, wow, like here I am experiencing sort of the second half of that activation, and it's really potent and powerful for me. And it really is perfectly timed because it's coming with me in this like new era. It really is a very distinct new era for me. And this for sure relates to, I mean, I feel kind of like, I kind of don't like talking about this because I don't want to just be like talking about myself, but it's happening for a reason, you know? And it's this second birthday thing, which has been this continued process of me understanding. And to be honest, like I just don't know always how to articulate that. And it frustrates me because I don't know how to articulate it. And I know it's something that like isn't that relatable. I just don't usually talk about it, but I'm coming to understand more and more like how that happening is kind of, well, it's helped me understand things about the soul and the oversoul and how we shift throughout our lives. It's just kind of deepened a lot of these lessons for me, and it's sort of an extreme experience. But a lot of the lessons in there, I think, are relevant for all of us in going through these very real death and rebirth, you know, cycles in our lives, and that's always gone on for me. And I know it goes on for a lot of you too, but I've just never really experienced anything quite like this. And I kind of realized that part of why things have felt so odd for me the last couple of years, and sort of, well, that piece that I was saying, like something hasn't quite clicked that I was trying to figure out, was related to that new birthday, you know, and that came in, and it was, you know, for a long time leading up to that, I knew that was going to happen. And I didn't really know how to, I mean, I was as prepared as I could be, but I wasn't emotionally prepared for that. But I was prepared. You know, I was told, I was guided. There was a lot of information coming through for me about that. I had mentors around me who were supporting me in it. And like, I knew that was going to happen. And then it happened. And, you know, it's just like hard to explain to people or even make sense of when I'm still trying to make sense of it myself and all the complexities that I'm learning more about every single day. But what's sort of been happening over the last few years is that other piece of me that came in just always felt like, honestly, like the real me. And that piece of me was in me when I was younger, and then like kind of left. And so, and it's another soul. So when that came in, suddenly I was kind of like, whoa, this feels like home again, but it's also so different because I've been something else for the last, 26 years. And well, I guess this last 20 years. And what kind of fell off was that piece was trying to fully snap in, and the old piece was slowly dissolving away. And I had a lot of people around me. I have such amazing people around me. I'm so grateful for. And I've had a lot of people around me, whether it be close friends or different, healers I know, different intuitives I know, and just like throughout the journey of the last few years, a lot of people in different ways have said to me, like, yeah, it just feels like there's just this dissolving thing kind of going on. Like you would think that would be just a fast transition, but it's more of a slow one. And I've been experiencing that, and it's a very weird feeling. It's like you're not fully anchored into either, I guess, soul vibration. And it's also kind of, it's very emotional. So it's a weird thing to navigate. And I think through all of the deaths and rebirths that I've had in my life, like that energy is literally making me emotional. Like the way I got through all of that was because I had such a solid sense of who I am at my core. Like, no matter how much of the identity shifts or like the reality shifts or, it's a huge upheaval, it's like at my core, whether I'm Christina Rice Wellness or Christina the channel, like where that was, that's one example of this, a death rebirth phase and very different me and a very different frequency. But like still underneath at my core, it was like still just a different iteration and a new expression of that soul frequency that I knew so well. And like that was my stability. And this is a very different process where it's like I didn't have that. I was like, I didn't have that to hold me. I had I was relearning and it really hasn't felt like until this year, like in the last month, that that new soul frequency is actually like anchored in and activated in, and I'm starting to feel like solid again in that underlying frequency, and so it's felt just kind of strange for the last 2 years, and that was a piece that hadn't fully clicked into place. And my guides kept telling me, and other people kept telling me, like, they keep just saying things like, remember, from like a full birth, how long does that take? If you think about conception to a birth, like let's say that's 9 months, give or take, the kind of energetic of that. And I literally, you guys, like, I went through a phase, like right after that happened, I was literally on a milk diet for like months. Because I was like, my body had to be treated like straight up like a baby. Like I couldn't, like it was that literal. And it's a very weird thing to go through. I can't even believe part of me is like, I can't even believe I'm talking about this. This is my life, but whatever. This is just who I'm here to be. I'm here to be very odd and share all of it. But very, very grateful that everybody, the other wild thing about it is I'm like, I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe I'm talking about this stuff. I can't believe I go through this shit and then I actually like tell people about it publicly. But the other part about it is I'm like, the people who listen to this podcast don't even think this is weird, which is like so amazing. And yeah, I just felt like it, because of what I was going through, there was such a hermit energy I really had to lean into. I really had to lean into my hermit to kind of navigate that space. And it's sort of like, when you're in the middle of certain things, that's not the place where, like, for me personally, I just don't think for most people, like, that's where we need everybody else's opinions, or like, when I'm going through my own process, I like to let myself be in my process. And I ask for the support that I need, but I'm also like very aware of, I don't need like too many other energies around me. I like to let things crystallize within myself. So I feel so much better feeling like, wow, I'm like finally, I feel like I'm like 99% crystallized, and it's this really beautiful place to be. And with that, as I have been feeling into every form of expression in the last few years, everything, like nothing has felt quite right. And nothing has felt quite me because I wasn't fully crystallized in the new me, if that makes any sense. And so that came down to just kind of everything, like everything. It was like how I want to decorate my home and how I want to dress and how, like, what color I want my hair to be. And, it's like how I communicate and, branding things and content styles and, like, I don't know, just all of these random forms of expression that come out in every single way, like whether that for me, like my career, but my personal life, and I was just like, okay, I kind of like that. And like, yeah, but also not quite right. And nothing felt quite right because for all the reasons I just described. And things are finally starting to feel quite right. And what I really realized, thanks to a lot of the reflections from the people on my team, was that it was like the things that now feel like, yes, this is resonant, were a lot of things that I was kind of resisting the most. And I never wanted that to be the answer. Like it was just like a lot of things that I didn't want it to be the answer. Like, and so I looked at everything that I think I don't like expression wise. I don't like that style. I don't like that color. I don't like that, like the things I was like, no, that's not me. I started to really go into and be like, is that really not me though? Or like, why do I have such an energy toward this? Why do I have such an energy toward this? Um, and then I started to kind of go into those things and trying them on. And I was like, I actually do kind of like this. I actually really like this. Wait, has this been the thing? That's like, yeah, this is me. So I'm not sure, how much this is making logical sense, but I'm sure you're getting the transmission underneath it. It's been a very interesting personal exploration, and I'm really grateful for this experience. Whenever you go to like the depth of an experience like this, it just helps me, I feel like, see other people more deeply, because when you've gone through an experience and other people are going through their own death and rebirth cycles, yeah, I can just kind of feel into that experience even more deeply in a very different way, from a very different angle. And I think that for a lot of people, without having a walk-in, people are feeling a similar thing of like, wow, my unique soul frequency is really turning online, and really a different iteration of a lot of people's soul frequencies are turning online. And that's what, we've been talking about with it. It feels like a new incarnation within the incarnation, like a whole new phase, because a lot of people have completed a lot of the contracts and are kind of moving on to the new phase and feel like a hard left. And that can all happen, within your soul, like within your soul frequency. But it's almost like another, if you think of like like DNA code or RNA, imagine like that there are portions not turned on, which is true, and the rest of the portions turn on, and now new things are activated. And it wasn't that it wasn't there to begin with, it just wasn't fully activated. And in terms of soul frequency, that's happening for a lot of people. So, a lot of people, I feel, will be feeling this type of energetic. And I have found through this, I have just needed to give myself grace and be gentle with myself, and be okay with being in my own process and my own process of experimentation and getting to know myself. And, it's a very human thing for me to feel kind of like bad, like that. I'll feel bad if I don't have it all together, if it's not all crystal clear for everybody around me. And the thing is, it just hasn't been crystal clear for me. So it's just been whatever it's been. And so, I always just do my best. And it's like, hey, we're here on the journey together, and letting it be that. And part of why I share that is because I know that feeling of like, I mean, it's the void in many ways. And I think a lot of us, we feel that kind of sense of the void, or we feel like we already know what's on the other side, but things aren't quite clicking. Like, it's that sort of feeling. And I think we can feel a lot of pressure to make decisions from that place. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in the last few years is, one, to be okay with just making temporary decisions and not try and force myself to make long-term decisions until I get to the place where things feel more crystallized. Like, if I'm not sure, then I'm not sure, and that's okay, and I'll be sure when I'm supposed to be sure. And so if I either just don't make the decision, or I just make a temporary decision. And I've had to really learn that, because I want to just make the long-term decision and not change, but it's just like not really how it goes. That's one of the big lessons I've gotten to learn through this. And I think the other piece is how often we maybe don't allow that full death experience. And I think that what I've really needed has just been a period of like true nothingness, where I could just fully let the energy die and fully rebirth into the new. And I just haven't really let myself do that. And I honestly feel like what's happened in the last 2 years, well, I don't feel like I know. I could have collapsed had I been like somewhere in there, hey, I'm going to be gone for a month or even a weekend, like, and I'm going fully dark and no one's talking to me and I'm not talking to anybody, and I'm just being with myself in the darkness for a second. And I know that would have shifted the timeline. That's fine. And instead it was kind of like a halfway in, like going through it, but still doing all my day-to-day things. And this goes back to, I've done whole podcasts about this, but this is a really important part of shifting into like the next iteration of ourselves, which I know a lot of people are. And it can feel very frustrating when you feel that other iteration of yourself and you want to be that iteration of yourself. Like it's so close, you can taste it, but it feels like it hasn't quite snapped in. It's not quite embodied yet. And I guess my point with sharing all of this is that that can unfold in a number of different ways. And it can still unfold the slow way. Like I just did this the slow way. And there have been other death and rebirth cycles I did the fast way, and I did this the slow way. I think maybe for like the first time in my life, I did it the slow way, which is a good learning lesson. It's not really what I usually do, which was, not releasing all of my ties and attachment and just fully letting the death happen and then going into the rebirth. And that's kind of what now we're doing at the tail end of it, to let it fully relaunch, so to speak. But I've talked a lot about, our relationships and our day-to-day tasks. And we think about all the things that we do and all of the ways that we show up and all the people that we talk to and all of our routines and habits and how those are all vibrationally attached to a certain iteration of us, right? Which is one of the reasons why if you assign a certain routine or hobby or anything, way of dressing to the next iteration of you, and you just start doing it, it can vibrationally launch you into that next iteration of yourself. It's just one manifestation hack, so to speak. It can help us because we kind of create that, we're creating that association. You can make that up, it's whatever you want it to be. But I think a lot of people don't think about it from the other side, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, so if I dress like, the abundant version of myself, But what about all the other things I'm doing that are still tying me to the old version of myself, so to speak? And I think for me, that was a big thing about moving. Like I had to move. That forced all my routines to change. That forced what I was doing every day to change, and who I'm talking to every day to change. And so it's been more of a slowly but surely, like kind of all these habits and routines and things I'm doing have shifted. And as those have shifted, it's kind of put me in a new space, a new energetic space where things can actually change. But I think one of the places where this shows up the most for people is in, relationships and friendships. And, there are many people in relationships where they offer you that space to transform and shift and change. That's beautiful. And there are other relationships and really more specifically just dynamics within relationships. It's not always about the other person, but it might just be kind of the dynamic that can kind of hold us as that old iteration of ourselves, and I have always found, and I'm not saying anybody has to do this or this is the only way. I'm just saying, I think that's one of the reasons why in my life, the way that I approach friendships, I'm not a quantity person. Everybody knows this about me. It's like, text me, I might get back to, in 3 months, I might not ever. I know that's, maybe people think that's bad, but it is what it is. Like, I just don't think we're supposed I have other things going on. It is what it is. Everyone knows that about me. But even with friendships, like, I've never been the kind of person that's going to hang out with my friends like every week. I'm definitely a less is more. I'm more of a quality over quantity, and it's just how all my close friendships have always been, and I like it that way. And I think a big reason why I've always geared toward that is because it's made all of my personal shifts a lot like easier. When I'm like, hey, every weekend we do this and every day we talk about that, it's like, and because I've gotten in relationships, I've had certain relationships where we start to get in those patterns, and I can feel like that it holds me into that version of me because it's holding me in that dynamic because it's so regular and consistent. And when there's more space for me in whatever I'm doing, it offers more room for me to just kind of grow and change. And then I grow and change, and the relationship kind of recalibrates along with me, and vice versa, as my friends are going through their own changes and upgrades and shifts, because it doesn't have this like distinct effect on the dynamic. In fact, it's kind of exciting because then every time we're getting together or visiting each other, whatever it is, it's like, what's new? And there's always so much to share. And you're really getting to know that person in a new way every single time. It's never boring. And I never had really thought of it that much that way, but I really do think that's kind of a component of it, and it's one of the reasons why when let's say we get a new friend group, or it's like whenever we step into a brand new energy of people that we're around, I mean, that's just open space, right? And you can recalibrate a lot more easily versus like being in the dynamics that you've attached to, or you've assigned to, or relate to. Hey, this is the other version of myself. Like, it's got to feel different for you to feel different is how I think about it. And so, for me, a lot's just naturally changed with my schedule and the move, and bringing in a new team, and it's just a lot of fresh energy, and that kind of like fully gave me space to move forward. But I think I've realized, crystallize. What I've really realized is I'm like, I need to just really go dark. Like, I just need to go dark. And it goes back to, within business, and I've talked about this before, like something we've really lost in a lot of places. And there are many businesses that do run this way. And especially, I remember, going, when I went to France a couple months ago, and it was like half, almost everywhere that we went was closed because it was summer. And so everybody took summer off. And I was like, wow, I kind of hate this because I want to go to this restaurant. But I also love this because that's so great that that's just a normal thing over there. And here it's like, there's a general kind of, hey, expecting consistent output, expecting consistency, and whatever somebody else has assigned is consistent. Like it reminds me of like with health advice, how all the health advice is geared toward the male body and male hormonal cycles, which are very different than female hormonal cycles, and the seasons that we go through. It's very different, but nature goes through seasons. I mean, we all go through seasons. We don't really honor those seasons anymore. And I think that's where a lot of dysregulation has come up, like it makes sense to me. Everybody's so tired and burnt out and confused and doesn't know what they want, and things aren't working because we don't honor any seasons, and seasons are where things change and regrow and shift and die and then rebirth. And that's just like the cycle of life. That's how nature works. And so I think that over the years, I have honored that in different ways, and I'm being pushed to honor that in even in deeper ways of like really, really building in, hey, like I know my high output times, and then I also need to honor when it's like completely, fully dark. And for me in my life, and I'm sure for most people, it's like I might go fully dark in one area, but then there's 5 other areas I'm not, and so it's not really fully going dark. And how often do we fully like quote go dark? And I'm talking about like, hey, I'm not on social. Hey, I'm not available for communication. Hey, I'm also like not hanging out with people. I'm not doing social things. I'm not being busy. I'm like really just like with myself. There's no energy attachments I'm doing anything with. And let me just see what happens when I get here. So I really think that for me, I've realized, got to go all in for it to fully rebirth. And that's kind of what we're doing. And I've just also been excited to bring a fresh energy, bring a fresh container. And I know the magic of changing the container. Changing the container can be moving. It can be redecorating. It could be changing your wardrobe. It could be getting a new hairstyle. It could be renaming something, renaming an offer, renaming a podcast. Whatever. Shifting the container makes a huge difference in whatever way. And I'll give an example with, I've done this with clients, and when with different mentors I've had, we've done this where it's, let's say my package is a year and the end of the year comes up and I'm technically going to get the quote same package, like same deliverables. But we always have the conversation about like, hey, like what do I want here? Do we want the same style, the same number of calls, the same number of deep dives, the same access? Do I want something different? There's always that conversation. And usually I end up doing, something similar, or maybe I'll add something. And then it's the question of, okay, what are we doing to change the container though? And so usually it'll be something like adjusting the price point, or it'll be as simple as we're renaming it. That's usually always what happens. Like there's a rename. So we'll name the container of whatever I'm in, and it's setting the energy of it. And it just feels distinctly different because I just changed the name, and it's that simple, I mean, names hold frequency. And I was thinking about in my life, like, well, actually, I was talking to Andrew about this the other day, how just how I've watched so many people throughout my life that I know, especially the more I had gotten into this spiritual space, how many people have legally changed their name. And previously, like, I didn't know that many people who legally changed their name to a totally different name. And I was like, wow, and I would just kind of notice that about different people, for, whatever their reason was. And interesting. And I was like, going through this is like the first time I'm really like, wow, like I really, 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 really understand on a visceral level, like why people legally change their name. Like, and especially the number of people I know who have legally changed their name, and the people around them are like, why are you changing your name? But names hold frequency. I mean, I know a number of people who have legally changed their name just to change the spelling, but it feels like a totally different energy for them, and they start to feel detached from the other name. And I was thinking about like all the different nicknames I have, and the different people who call me different nicknames. And when they call me that nickname, I immediately like connect that nickname with a certain identity, with a certain energy, so it brings out a different part of me. And I'm sure we can all relate in different ways. Think about things like your parents called you, or maybe childhood friends call you whenever they, maybe still call you that. It's like, oh, there's kind of this different aspect of my personality that's brought forward, that comes up. And it does make me feel, different. And I think that goes back to things like, what's your word for the year, which you could decide on, whether it be your birthday or the start of a new year, or just any random day that you're like, hey, my new year starts here, or this next season of my life starts here. One of my favorite questions from, whatever those question games is, if this season of your life was a book chapter, what would you name it? And I think asking ourselves questions like that is really valuable, and just starting to kind of set containers for ourselves, because there's an energy to that. And I think that's a different way of approaching it versus I'm going to go through this season, and as I'm going through it, be like, this is feeling like a rebirth, or this is feeling like a crumbling apart, or this is feeling like a void, or this is feeling like expansion, or this is feeling like activation. It's one thing to do that, and it's another thing to like look ahead and say, hey, the next season of my life, I'm naming this. And that's, I think, a very empowering place to be. And so as things have crystallized for me and my voice and my creativity, I just feel like I've really come back to myself, like this self I didn't know, or I had kind of lost. And I feel like a lot of my creativity has like come back online, and things are finally clicking into place. And it's so clear to me of like, this is the direction I want to go in, and I'm going to do it full send. And that's a really exciting place to be. It feels like, if you think of your life as a music album, and it's like, what's this next album going to be? What are what's the mood associated with it? What are the colors? What's the vibe? Like, what are the songs about? That kind of energy. And really for me, that's where it feels like I'm like really creating life, and this like kind of creating a whole energy around this next season, and setting the container, and like, hey, let's see what comes up when we set the container and set the intention around that. And, who knows how long that next container will last, or the next season will last. But we can recreate it then. And I think it kind of just brings forward a lot of what we've been doing on the back end with the business has been like creation energy of, hey, here are the frequencies and here are the feelings. This is the next phase. And we want to really like energetically and visually and emotionally and practically represent those energies and create this container instead of just saying it, And so I'm just somebody that I want everything needs to match the vibe, And I think a kind of relaunch of ourselves can be really fun. And so I'm definitely just going through kind of a personal, I'm going to say releasing of my Aries, which will always be in me because it's in my cellular DNA, but it's just a very different energy. And even the things that, I want to channel about and explore more and what I want to create, it's just a different iteration. And I know for me to kind of go all the way in, I got to reset the container. So that's what we're doing. And we're changing a lot at once. And I'm also trying to really like let myself go all in on whatever is my current focus instead of trying to do so many things at the same time or trying to like maintain this over here when I really need to go fully into this over here. And that was one of my big lessons with this book. Like I was like, I need 3 weeks where I'm not doing anything but editing this book and focusing on it because that's what it deserves. And that was a big realization. I'm like, I can't try and manage this over here and this over here. I want to just be all in and one thing at a time. And that's been a big unlearning for me of like, and it's not that I don't think multitasking is helpful in many ways, but I think it's, having that full spectrum of experience. And there was a time where my expansion was learning to kind of multitask and be smart and hack time and things like that. Be smart with my time and hack it. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I need to go to the opposite side of the spectrum and truly one thing at a time. Like go on a walk and don't listen to anything, or just cut vegetables and be making dinner and don't be doing anything else at the same time. Don't be talking on the phone to somebody at the same time, or even with like work, it's like, this is one of the things that we're really trying to shift. It's kind of exciting to have a new team and we're figuring this out together and all new systems, all new structures, all new energy, all new flows. And hey, what would it look like for us to actually be all in on one thing at a time, like really, really, really fully? And so we're experimenting and we're learning, and I like to be in that experiment, and share that experiment as we're going and see how that might inspire or spark ideas in the community here. So a lot of changes are happening and I feel very excited. So I'm going to go peace out. I'm kind of finishing up some of the last things I want to quote finish up in the next few days, and then really let myself go dark. And in that darkness, let myself really crystallize rebirth and let me and the team complete our death cycles and rebirth cycles with all the things behind the scenes. So that's what I'll be up to in Feb, and excited to kind of step into the new containers that we're setting up for ourselves, so to speak, with the book launch and the new event and, cleaning things up and all kinds of other fun, spicy things. So that's what's going on. The end of an era. I'm going to be going dark for a few weeks, and I'll be back with you, soon enough. And maybe it's a good time for other people, if you also have been feeling it, maybe you want to kind of go dark too with me. If you're also going through a rebirth, which I think a lot of people are. So that's my update. I can't believe it. I don't know how many years at this point this podcast has been Christine on the channel, but quite a few. And we've had a lot of good conversations, a lot of great episodes, a lot of beautiful things to come forward. And now we're going to rebirth into a new iteration and just make it bigger, bolder, better, So I will see you here in a few weeks on the new podcast. Stay tuned. And like I said, my team will be sending out emails about updates, and they'll probably be posting to my Instagram stories for me with updates as well about what's going on. And I'm getting excited. I'm very excited. So that's how we're handling February. All right, friends. Thank you for being here with me today and for being here with me for this most recent season, chapter, iteration. And I'm excited to see you again very soon with some fresh energy. So we're going to say goodbye to Christina the Channel podcast and hello to ... to be continued, whatever comes next. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you have an amazing month, and I will see you in a few weeks on the new and improved podcast.